in at Dyer's Creek, which is across the river on the other side of the concrete bridge there. And we went down to Forrest Escape by canoe, did a talk where the Dover Hotel is, talking about the Confederate supply head, and then came down to here to about where that marker buoy is and did the Union Navy perspective. And all the tours I've been doing here, that was amazing because I finally got to see what the Union Navy got to see. One thing I also learned is those soldiers of ours will hit the beer cans at 0600 in the morning. I'm not even that tough. I wait till dinner time before I have my first beer. But we popped out of Dyer's Creek. Here came a towboat with 8 barges kicking up a heck of a wake, and there's a rock wall on this side of the river, so you're getting an echo wake coming off of that. And I yelled over to him. I said, for those of you who are not familiar with the U.S. Navy tactics in dealing with high waves, it's bow in or you're going to roll. So everybody's frantically getting their bows in, and everybody made it except one. And they rolled, put 3 guys in the water, and did your perfect Boy Scout handbook recovery of a canoe in a deep water situation. But the major didn't give any merit badges. And then by the time we exfil at Hickman Creek Landing to the right, they're ramming each other. It's like, you know, it's the Battle of Salamis with these guys out there ramming each other. Major's sitting there just shaking his head. The other thing is my wife and I came to the picnic area, which is right behind us. It's a fabulous picnic area overlooking the river. And we stopped in to say hi to now retired park historian Jimmy Job, and he said, well, be careful because Junior Eagle is out running around. And yesterday on one of the tables down there, this lady was eating her lunch, and Junior Eagle, who was about 1.5 feet tall at the time with brown feathers, they don't turn black and white for quite some time, landed at the end of the table. Kind of freaked her out a little bit. There was a little baby eagle at the end of the table, you know, substantial sized bird. So when we came down here, of course, you know, you can't pick up eagle feathers or any of that kind of stuff. They're that federally protected, but we picked out which picnic table it was because we found dried eagle droppings there. So we came back and I said, Jimmy, you got to get some shellac or something on that table. He says, why? I said, because that's federally protected eagle poop down there. Nope, not unless you're American Indian. And I'm 116 Cherokee, so I can join the tribe. So that might get me off the list. Yeah. I'm going with Paul.
If you look, you said this was the Eddyville Road.
Yeah, actually, not this part. The Eddyville Road was straight off down here.
Did it go down to the ford?
Yes, it connects with the road down there. I'll show you where it spins off. It's coming up here. Coming off on the left is where the Eddyville Road will spin off towards the town of Dover, and the actual entrance into Fort Donelson, which, as I said, was way down in the valley down that way. And then from that point on, we'll be on the historic road. We are not on the historic road right now. We'll be in a matter of moments.
What happened to the structures at Fort Donelson?
They were used by the Federals, and then everything was abandoned. They all fell apart. Rotted or whatever.
It was carved off.
Yeah, the Eddyville Road getaway was back there about 20 or 30 yards. There's a gate that you can see where it goes. We'll make a right turn here. We're now going to do C.F. Smith's attack on Butler's position. And there's a turnaround at the bottom. We'll go around, we'll loop around, we'll go to stop 5. Take a look at this ravine off to your right that I've officially dubbed the Bodacious Ravine. And you'll get an idea of how this is going to come into play here in a few minutes.
Wow, it's pretty.
You can't see it in the summertime. I'm working on the park guys to build an observation deck here in the woods where you can actually look into the ravine, because it plays a big part in stopping Smith's attack. So this is the line originally held by Buckner's troops before they were pulled over to the other side to support the breakout attack and participate in the breakout attack. So basically from about where the visitor center is to down here is held by Buckner's division. Now the Eddyville Road, as we make the loop, you'll see it going down the slope as a grassy trail. It will cross Hickman Creek, which is just down below. As we make the loop, look through the trees, you'll see the creek itself. It'll cross on a bridge. It goes down as an angle, crosses over that way, and then goes back up the other side. You can pick it up on the other side and then carry it all the way up to Eddyville. So here's your Eddyville Road heading down to the Creek Valley off to your right. And this is the right flank of the Confederate defenses. And we'll go up here to the next stop at stop 5, and we'll stop and dismount there. Unfortunately, since we couldn't get the blue and grays, I Xeroxed one of the maps. We'll be using map 8. That is number 5. This is stop number 5. Right here on your map. Stop 5. Map 8, stop 5. Okay? Yeah. On the opposite ridge, there's a valley below. On the opposite ridge is Charles Ferguson Smith Division. He has only 2 brigades of his 3 here because McClernand does not have enough combat power to shut the door heading towards the Cumberland River. So they will borrow John MacArthur's brigade. He's a Scotsman from Chicago, where all good Scotsmen come from. Their battle flag has the Scots Thistle on it, and he's going to be a very capable brigade and division commander in the Army of the Tennessee, serving at Shiloh, at Vicksburg, and other places in the war in the West. Quite in no relation to Douglas MacArthur. That is Arthur MacArthur of the 24th Wisconsin. That is Douglas MacArthur's father. Because I always get asked that question. So what Charles Ferguson Smith is doing is he's got his 2 brigades, Cook and Lauman, lined up facing this area. Lauman will be on this side, Cook will be further down that way. When Grant is dealing with the Confederate breakout attack over Dudley's Hill, several miles off to that way, where we're going to be heading next, when he gets back on the field, and people go, well, where the heck is Grant gone, where he's not on the field? He's meeting with Smith on the gunboat Carondelet to try to beg him to keep a boat there. And he leaves orders with his brigade commanders and division commanders not to bring on a drill engagement. By this time, he now has his 3rd Division on the field, commanded by Lew Wallace. He had left Lew Wallace with his brigade back at Fort Henry. Wallace knew that he was going to be called up, so he actually moved his brigade several miles out and camped on the high ground on one of the roads, knowing he's going to get the call. And in the interim, Halleck is begging Buell for some reinforcements, so he sends him 2 brigades. John Thayer's brigade. Thayer is the colonel of the 1st Nebraska. And it's off. I often wonder, like, how'd they get over here? They take a left turn the wrong place. They will fight on this side of the Mississippi River through the Island Number 10 campaign, and then they go back across the river and will fight the rest of the war out that way. I actually was on a conversation with a guy from Nebraska. Well, these guys get lost? You know, how the heck they end up over here? Nebraska was only a territory then, too. It wasn't even a state. So that's Thayer's brigade, and then Cruft, Charles Cruft, and he's going to be bringing down some of the first Buckeyes and Hoosiers into this, loaned from the armies of the Ohio. What's that for?
Sorry.
For which one? Buckeyes or Hoosiers or both?
Both.
Okay. All right.
It's about time you mentioned it.
I'm from Illinois. Remember, everything rolls downhill from Illinois.
Even there is.
Yeah. Yeah, including the BS. So they're going to show up on the field, and they're going to be landing at that boat landing I was telling you about downstream. They're going to march all the way around, and they're going to form Wallace's 3rd Division literally on the field in the Indian Creek Valley. So Wallace will march up with his brigade, knowing that Grant's going to send a message, bring your troops forward, we need more troops. And Wallace marches his troops up here, and then when he's here, he's relieved to command the brigade and promoted to command the 3rd Division. So he has now got a full division in the middle, and you got McClernand over here and Charles Ferguson Smith over here. Still not enough combat power to shut the door. You need a full, at least another division, and you've got 8 companies of Union cavalry on the hill here overlooking the river with no artillery to interdict the line of supply. So when Grant gets on the field after the breakout attack has commenced and has fought till about 2:30 in the afternoon, he, as the story goes, sees a dead Confederate on the field with a pack on. And I'll talk about the pack problem when we get over to the other side. And he deduces that the Confederates are trying to break out. He also correctly deduces, and you know this if you're familiar with linear warfare, you have whatever you have on the field in a line of battle, and you can't be equally strong everywhere, especially if you want to launch an attack, which means you've got to weaken something to put your mass where you want your coup de main to be, and then you launch your attack. And that's exactly what's going to happen here for the Confederates. They're going to move Buckner's entire division all the way down, and we'll pass through that position 2 or 3 miles in that direction, and they will leave 9 companies of the 30th Tennessee to hold from that line over there all the way to the visitor center. I mapped it out with Jimmy Job one time. We were figuring out it's about 1 man every 10 feet. And these guys have smoothbore flintlocks largely. A lot of the Tennessee troops have smoothbore flintlocks, last used in the War of 1812, by the way, including at the Battle of Chalmette. So they're used to killing bad guys, the Brits at Chalmette. What they've done here is you've cleared your, as I said earlier, imagine 80% less trees, that's what it would look like, and then you've cleared a 150-yard field of fire of your trees that way. The quickest way to build earthworks is take nice straight trees, knock them down, strip the branches off, pyramid the logs, and then shovel dirt on both sides, instant trench. So you have a core of wood, and then you dig it deeper on the one side for your men to stand in. And then what you do with other trees is you cut them down so they fall that way, creating what's called abattis. It's spelled A-B-A-T-I-S. It's a French word. It's basically the barbed wire of the day. And the point of abattis is when you're marching shoulder to shoulder on a battlefield and you come across a wall of abattis, you've now broken down linear formation. These guys have to break ranks, try to make their way through, and their time in the killing zone now increases exponentially. So even though you're going to have 9 companies of the 30th Tennessee here, they're going to slaughter these guys coming up the slope because they're tangled in the abattis as they come up the slope. Then the third thing is you're coming uphill. You can go down to that valley and walk it. It's pretty steep. It's steeper going up the other way, but it's fairly steep. So Grant figures out that there's a breakout attack, and the Confederates are probably giving up over here, and he sends an order to Smith that says, will you please take your division into the fort? So Smith will march his guys off the slopes of the front, down to the valley, form his lines of battle with Lyman on this side and Cook on that side, and at the command, they will start coming up the slope into the guns of the 30th Tennessee. Most of your artillery's not here either. It's been taken over to the other side as fire support. And as they come up, there was a race to the top. Of course, you get tangled in the abattis. Men are falling like crazy. And they're taking some enfilade fire from Porter's Battery, which is across from the visitor center. It can, if you stand there in the wintertime and look, it fires down this entire line all the way to Hickman's Creek. And we'll talk about Berge sharpshooters there, keeping their heads down as much as possible during this campaign. So as the men come up, the color bearers of the 2nd Iowa begin to fall in succession. And the 2nd Iowa has got a chance to prove itself here because they did something when they were in St. Louis before they boarded the transports to come down, and Halleck ordered them to march with their colors furled, which is a sign of dishonor. So they board the steamboat and they sail down this way, and they're just determined to get their honor and their glory back. So the first color bearer will fall down with the colors, second color bearer picks up, he's shot down, third color bearer, fourth color bearer, until the fifth color bearer picks it up by the name of Voltaire Paine Twombly. Named for Voltaire and Thomas Paine, back in the days when we named people for important historical people. Like I could have a son Gaius, Lucius, Maximus, Napoleon, Smith, or something like, I love the historical names back, and they were very, and then the last name of Twombly, which in my grade school would have guaranteed him a butt whipping by guys like me all the time. I got it just for being a Biggs, let alone something like a Twombly. Twombly. He gets a shot in the chest. There's something in there that stops the bullet from penetrating, but the kinetic energy will knock him down. He realizes he's not bleeding or dead. He gets back up, and he will plant the first U.S. flag on the parapets of the Fort Donelson Outer Works somewhere in this vicinity. In the 1890s, he will receive the Medal of Honor, which is at the park. I don't know if it's on display yet. That used to be, then they redid the museum, and last time I looked I didn't see it, but maybe they've got a picture of it up in there, but that is his Medal of Honor. The flag that he carries for the longest time will be behind the Speaker of the House's rostrum in the Iowa Legislature in Des Moines, where every day the lawmakers of Iowa would look at this fabulous flag carried on the walls of Fort Donelson. And then in quick succession, several other colors are slammed into the dirt, and then comes the post-war war, no, the ump. Illinois was the first flag here. Are you out of your mind? The 2nd Iowa beat them. We saw them. They were just down the hill still, as would often happen during the war. And they break through. And they're pouring through. Let us now go across the road to the Bodacious Ravine.
How bodacious is your